This story takes place a very long time ago, in China. And the emperor of China was a very, very old man. And he wondered who was going to rule China after he had gone. He had no children of his own, you see, so it wasn't all that simple. And how do you choose an heir, anyway? How do you find someone that is just and brave and honest? It just so happened he was taking his daily walk in the palace gardens, pondering this very issue. He looked fondly at the lovely flowers waving in the gentle summer breeze, the busy bees, and the gardeners hard at work. He rather admired the gardeners, the way they could make things grow up out of the ground, their relationship with the natural world. And that's when he had an idea. It was perhaps the best idea the emperor had ever had. And the next day, there was a royal proclamation. By royal decree, any child wishing to become the next emperor of China must visit the palace tomorrow morning and take away one seed. In 6 months' time, the child that has grown the finest and the loveliest flower from their seed will become emperor. Well, you can imagine the excitement. And the next morning, the palace courtyard was full of children and parents, all waiting in line patiently to receive their one little seed. All the parents dreaming what it would be like to have their child as the emperor of China. All the children dreaming what it's going to be like to actually be the emperor of China. And one such child was Jun. Jun was considered to be the best gardener in his village. He could often be seen in his little garden at home, deadheading the flowers, moving saplings to a nicer place in the sun, watering thirsty plants, pulling up new weeds. His flowers were the finest and the loveliest flowers that anyone had ever seen. His vegetables were the largest and tastiest vegetables anyone had ever tasted. Everyone who knew him thought that Jun was bound to win this competition. And Jun himself was very excited to receive his seed. He carried it carefully home, securely held in his hands, not too tight so as to crush it, but tight enough that it wouldn't fall and be lost. The next day, Jun got a plant pot. He put some small stones in the bottom for drainage. He filled the pot with his best soil. He placed the royal seed on top of the soil. And placed a little soft compost on top. He gently watered the seed. Then he waited. And all over the country, children were doing exactly the same thing, waiting for their seed to sprout, grow, and blossom into a beautiful flower. And soon they were. Little green shoots began to appear in all the plant pots. Hundreds and hundreds of flowers started to grow. But not in Jun's. No matter what he did, nothing was growing in his plant pot. All over China, children were moving their pots into the sunshine, giving them a little bit of water, building a protective wall around them just in case any other child might accidentally or not so accidentally knock the pot over. And soon, big green leaves started to appear on hundreds of plants. But not Jun's. He was very confused. He knew he'd done nothing wrong, but still his pot was empty of flowers. He carefully changed the soil in case he'd used bad compost. He moved it to another spot in case it wasn't getting enough sun. He checked for beetles in case they were eating the roots. He watered it more. He fed it plant food. He was at his wit's end. 6 months passed, and the day came for the children to take their plant pots to the palace, to be judged by the old emperor himself. So they all put on their best clothes, and they carried their pots, each with a beautiful flower in it, through the palace gates and into the courtyard. Jun was there too. Despite his best efforts, despite caring for it every single day, his pot was empty. Well, it had some soggy compost in it. He had nothing to show. He felt so ashamed. And everybody either felt pity for him, that this brilliant gardener had been unable to grow anything, or they mocked him. What a stupid boy for bringing an empty pot. Then everyone fell silent. The emperor had arrived. The old man walked up and down the lines of proud parents and smiling children, looking at each and every flower. Each flower he passed was more beautiful and more fine than the last, but he didn't seem pleased. In fact, he had a frown on his face. Everyone looked at each other. What was the problem? Eventually, the emperor arrived at Jun. The emperor looked down at Jun's empty pot, and his frown turned into a scowl. "Why have you brought me an empty pot, young man?" asked the emperor. Jun looked up. "I don't know," he said. "I don't know why it didn't grow. I did everything I usually do. I fed it, I watered it, I put it in the sun. I feel so ashamed. I brought it to apologize." The emperor was silent for a while, and then he turned and addressed the crowd. "The seeds that I gave to each and every one of you 6 months ago had all been cooked in an oven. And no plants will ever grow from a cooked seed." Then the emperor continued, "You've all cheated. Every single last one of you. Well, all except this young man here. He's the only one honest enough not to cheat and brave enough to admit his failure. And so," he said, turning to Jun, "I will reward him with the whole kingdom and make him Emperor of China." And he did. The end.